Okay, welcome to learn stuff while listening to Stu practice his vocals. Alright, yeah, so today we're going to be learning about Japanese social structure during the Tokugawa Shogunate and early Meiji Restoration periods. Alright, so start off, here is basic Japanese social structure. It goes merchants are on the bottom, then come the artisans, which if you don't know what an artisan is, go look it up. No, I'll tell you. It's basically someone who's specialized in making a certain thing, like a blacksmith. Um, then it comes farmers and rural workers, like um, just farmers, and then the samurai. Yep. So anyway, yeah, you're under yourself. Well, why are merchants on the bottom? Well, Japanese is an honor-based system, right? So they're like, oh, well, yeah, you don't really do anything except sell stuff that other people make, so you're not really doing any work. So guess what? You're scum of the earth. That's a very bold way to put it, but that's pretty much how they saw them. But so yeah, samurai was on the top, which isn't a big surprise because all right, originally samurais were warriors. But later on, when they weren't really needed as warriors so much, they became like not scholar. All right, that word is the bane of my existence, but that's not the point here. I digress. They became like men of like education, not quite Renaissance men, because they weren't really learning anything to enrich their like straight like education, like knowing stuff. They were like with the arts, like they were masters of poetry and verse. Not verse, because they didn't have any freaking Christianity slash Catholicism, so that doesn't make any sense. But it's I don't know how to explain this. They were very worldly. God, am I stupid? They were just good with the arts, and people respected that. And they had special, just freaking. Oh, you're at the bathhouse. Oh, guess what? There's a samurai here. You might be in the bath, but you best be getting the fuck out of there. Otherwise, that samurai is allowed to cut your freaking head off. And that is true. If you disrespect a samurai, they had the right to kill you, right then and there. If you just looked at them, they were allowed to. And everyone's like, "Oh, samurai is so noble." Like, at first they kind of were, but uh, I'll get to that later. So yeah, um, I'm not gonna talk about political structure. I'm just talking about social structure. And then came farmers. So yeah, farmers were like, "Oh, fucking farmers! They're basically the lifeblood of the fucking country because they produce rice." So rice is like, "Oh yeah, we gotta have rice." Oh, by the way. Let me backtrack a bit. Samurai weren't paid in money from the government. They got what was called a stipend, and guess what it was? Rice. They got a rice stipend, so they got paid in rice, and it was a yearly amount. So they would have to. God, I wish I was talking about political structure too. I'll talk about that next time. But yeah, they got paid in rice. That's all you really need to know. If anyone wants to learn more about samurai in general, I'll be glad to make another video because that's a huge, wonderful topic. But then you had your farmers, and they were the lifeblood of the country. They did the manual labor. They supplied the rice. They supplied the food. They supplied the plants. They did all the work that no one else wanted to do. And it's just like, oh yeah, cool, good for them. So that they're honorable, and they just did what had to be done. Next, the artisans. Not much to say about the artisans. They did one thing they were good at. Those were like sword makers and armor makers. You figure they'd be more respected in the community, but they weren't. That whole Masamune thing is bullshit. It's just a fucking story. Don't believe it for a minute. Um, yeah. So there's like there was a lot of blade makers and like sculptors and stuff, and like I want to say architects, but you know, yeah. So yeah, I can go with architects and throw them in there. And then merchants. Merchants. Filthy merchants. Filthy, filthy merchants. Scum of the earth merchants. Yeah, so basically they were looked down upon. They were like, "You're not doing work, boy. You're just fucking selling stuff that the farmer and the artisan were doing to the samurai usually." Corrupting the samurai. Oh my god, merchants are evil. Yeah, so they basically got they were, and the thing was, it wasn't even like economic. It was like they were usually the richest people, and the samurai they were usually the poorest. Like it's like, oh yeah, fucking, yeah. You didn't expect that one, did you? But yeah, so the merchants had all the money, and they were just selling other people's stuff, so they were seen as disrespectful and dishonorable. Not to the point where they get commit seppuku, which is what it's called, guys. Seppuku. Yeah, not Sudoku. It's seppuku. Uh, might be my pronunciation might be a little off on it, but that's pretty much what it's called. That's the right letters, but yeah. So yeah, so it was just dishonorable to be a merchant, and then later on, um, when the shogunate was like losing power, merchants often bought their way into the upper classes, into the just bypassed everything, and you don't bypass it's not an upgrade system. They would like become like legit. No, not they're illegit. My tongue hates me. Illegitimate samurai. They would call them rural samurai, and they would be. This is the weird part. You think rural samurai, you're like, oh, hillbilly samurai. They must look like poor people. Well, no, because the samurai, like I said before, weren't really paid, and when they were paid, they had to pay their was it? I'm gonna their daimyo, like what was it? Like half their like money they made, which they weren't supplied by from the shogun himself. So they were often like really poor and like in debt to the merchants. So they would sell their I don't want to say honor, their title to them, and they'd just be like, "Oh yeah, so yeah, you're a samurai now. It's cool, I'm a samurai with a merchant. Now I'm respectable." But they really weren't. They were called rural samurai, and they had the best of everything, and they were just a bunch of uppity pricks, like just not real legit, like no skill bitches. That's though I hate to use the word because it's supposed to be semi-educational, but yeah. So they were just like, "Oh yes, we're a samurai now." And then in one case, there was they call them True Blood samurais. You call them that. It's just easier to say. And he was walking down the street. This really happened. I don't remember what the people's names were. I'm sorry, but he was walking, and then a drunk rural samurai came up to him, told him his swords were rusty and that he couldn't cut through a bale of straw with it. So the True Blood samurai looks at him. He's like, "Eh, really?" So he draws his sword, cuts the man in half. Yep, cuts him in half. Thus, the class struggle between the merchants and the samurai began. That's really a completely different topic, and that will go into the downfall of the Tokugawa Shogunate, which I will probably do a audio track on that sometime soon. But yeah, that's pretty much a good. Yeah, it's a good. It's not a good description of the story, but it's basically something more than you'll learn in like most high school, any high school class probably, because you'll just learn like, oh, samurai were highest, and shogun was a mean, evil man. That's what you'll learn in like a high school thing. This is just a quick, like if you want to learn something, here, listen to this, and it'll help me by letting me work on my pipes. But yeah, so thank you for listening. Listen again soon.